Hello and welcome to the Renaissance English History Podcast Tudor Minute, your mostly daily dose of all things related to medieval and Renaissance English history. So I've been talking recently about trade and exploration, and right now I'm going to talk about Henry Hudson, who was a famous English explorer. So he was actually one of the world's most famous explorers, and he never actually found what he was looking for. He was born in England in the mid-16th century, around 1565, and he made 4 voyages of discovery. He never actually found what he was looking for, which was, of course, the famous mythical Northwest Passage through to Asia, through the North American continent. But he did find what would be known as the Hudson River, and then on his last voyage, he found what would become the Hudson Bay. And that was actually a very fatal voyage to him because he died on the way. He never got back. So there's very little information about him available before his first journey in 1607. It is believed that he learned about seafaring through fishermen and sailors firsthand. He must have had a talent for navigation early on, enough to become a commander in his late 20s. And prior to 1607, he probably worked aboard other ships, and he finally was appointed to lead one on his own. And reports also indicate that he was married to a woman named Catherine, and they had 3 sons together. He made 4 journeys, like I said, at the height of the Age of Discovery, when people would join together to form companies. And I did an episode on the different companies, the Muscovy Company, the East India Company. And he was actually hired in 1607 to start with by the Muscovy Company, which was searching to find a northern route to Asia, and they were also funding trade with Russia. So they had discovered, the Muscovy Company had been behind the voyage that discovered a route into Russia, so they were kind of building on that, and they still thought they could go north and get to Asia directly by going north and over Russia. So he did that. It didn't work out. And in 1609, he joined the Dutch East India Company as a commander, which essentially meant that he was now exploring for the Dutch, a rival to the English, of course. And on his way back to the Netherlands after his first voyage of discovery, he was actually stopped at the English port of Dartmouth, and the English authorities seized his ship and any of the Englishmen who were among the crew, and they were really upset that he had been exploring for the Dutch. So they forbade him from working for the Dutch again, because it would really suck if he'd made this great discovery for the Dutch. But then he was like, well, I need to have some English funding then, because I've got to go off and do some discovery. So he finally found some English to fund his next trip, and that was his fatal trip. He left England in 1610 aboard a ship called the Discovery, and they went past Greenland and what became known as the Hudson Strait, and then they reached the Hudson Bay. But then he realized, because it was this big open water, he thought he was on a good path. Then he realized that he'd come to a dead end. And by this point, Hudson was actually losing control of his crew. So they found themselves trapped on the ice. So there was ice all around them. They couldn't move, and they were running low on supplies. And they were forced to spend the winter there. So the tensions grew worse. And by 1611, in June, conditions had improved enough for the ship to set sail again. But Hudson didn't make the journey home because several members on the crew took over the ship, and they cast out Hudson, his son, and a few of the other crew members. They put them in a small boat and set them adrift. And it's believed that he would have died of exposure sometime later in or near the Hudson Bay. And some of the mutineers were later put on trial, but they were all acquitted. So more European explorers and settlers followed Hudson's lead and went to North America, and actually went to the New York area. Of course, the English bought New York from the Dutch, and that was at the mouth of the Hudson River, and they bought that in 1625. Or actually, the Dutch started the colony New Amsterdam in 1625 at the mouth of the Hudson River. And of course, that's now, like I said, New York. So he's largely responsible for New York. Go him. So, to learn more about the Renaissance English History Podcast, you can subscribe on iTunes or Stitcher or your podcast aggregator of choice, or you can go to www.englandcast.com, englandcast.com, or facebook.com/englandcast. Hannah's napping right now, and that's why she's not in this video. But I'll tell her you said hi. I'm sure she says hi. Hi. Bye. Have a great day.